Yo, yo, yo. What's up, y'all?
Hey.
I'm so excited to be with you. I feel like there's so many things that I could say on how to start that we would both get, but nobody who listens to my show would understand because not all of them are on Clubhouse. So this is not a Clubhouse show, but this is a Clubhouse reunion because that's how Trevor and I got connected. And this show has been a long time in the making. We've had to cancel on one occasion or another. And we know now, just from the conversation that we had offline before, that there is greatness to come, not just in our relationship, but in the listenership of every single one of you, because God is before us in this moment and in the moments to come as we serve. And Trevor has been serving. He's been doing this thing and his passion in his heart for a long time. And I'm excited to see how it comes to fruition. But I want you guys to know that he is a man of God and he is serving. He's already serving. And you guys can listen and tune in to his show, the Who You Know Job Networking Show. But there's so much more than a person than just that one thing. He's strategizing and networking, community building, and empowering people, not just job seekers, but entrepreneurs and business owners like myself. And he's got a radio show that you're not going to believe. And I'll let him talk since it's his podcast. Now, welcome to the show, Trevor.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah. So it's all about who you know, right? It's all about who you know.
I love it. Who you know.
Yeah, it's all about who you know. We got started doing this show. Let's see, it was January 2018. So we're on episode 265, I think, something like that. Anyways, yeah, it's been a journey, right? It's been a journey, and it all got started when I walked into a local church. Local church, and they have a career transition group called Frisco Connect, and I started serving over there. But in the beginning, I walked in there, and I was kind of shocked at what was going on, and it was like these people were fish out of water. You know, a lot of people get let go from big companies, and they haven't had to look for a job in many, many, many years. And so they end up, you know, fish out of water. They're going to these different networking groups, and everybody's telling them you need to network to get a job. And they're like, I don't know what that means. What do you mean network? You know?
Yeah.
They might have been like in IT or something, stuck behind a computer or whatever, and now all of a sudden they got a network. They don't know what that means. And anyway, so we walked in this church, and I saw people were really hurting. They were really upside down. And luckily, that church was there to help bring these people together and build community and serve. And but I also noticed that in the room that we were in, these people had been doing it for a long time. They'd been, this group has been around for quite some time. And some of the members were a little bit older. And nothing wrong with that at all. But the energy in the room was just very, very low, right? Very low. And so I came and brought a whole new, fresh perspective and fresh energy. And I was like, oh no, we got, like, to me, the missing element. It's not the resume tips and the LinkedIn tips all day long. We got that.
Yeah.
It's the motivation. It's the inspiration. These people are down here and we got to bring them up here. You know, they're hurting.
Yeah.
So that's what I brought to the table.
It sounds like, and I'm envisioning like walking into that room as well, and even witnessing it with people in my own life, maybe veterans who are out of the military and their whole life has been turned upside down, and their purpose is the word that I keep thinking of. Their purpose is gone. Their identity is stripped because that's what they were proud of. That's what they got to go to a non-networking social event and say, preceded their name. I am this, right? And so many people ask that, what do you do? It's not about what you do. It's about who you are. It's about what you're passionate about. But we were never taught that. We were taught you go to school to get a degree, and then you go to work for that degree, and then you stay there till you get tenure, and then you retire. And when you retire, you die after, I think. That's how that usually works.
Yeah.
And that's terrible. It
is
just
terrible.
Truly not life. And so a purpose is what I hear. So tell me about like how you then activated beyond just the inspiration and the motivation and your natural born energy. Like what became of that?
Well, think about what you just said a minute ago about the I am this, I am that, the identity, Right. And it's so funny we talk about this. I've been thinking about it a lot lately, actually. Like, especially in the climate of where, the United States and the world is in today, this identity politics, and everybody's looking for their identity. I think people are really, really lost. I think a lot of people are lost. Job seekers and just people in general, they're lost. They're trying to find their identity. And when I think about identity, I go back and I'm like, the alpha and the omega. Right? I am the I am. Everybody's looking for their I am this, I am that. No. You find your identity in Christ,
Yes.
the beginning and the end, right? Because we're trying to figure out who we are. No. You're asking the wrong questions. Who is he?
Oh,
right?
So good.
We're just asking the wrong questions. We're trying to figure out our own, and we're trying to be, I think, mankind is like, we're trying to be our own idol, our own gods. We're trying to figure out who we are so bad that we're missing the big picture, right? We're missing the big picture. So
you guys, that's a punch in the gut for someone, even me thinking about it. I mean, it's wild because this is like a consistent thing. And it's not just for somebody who doesn't have a job or just lost a job or is aged out of a job, right? It's for the person who is in a position that might be high paying, and you're letting that position precede you into a room when he actually is what precedes you. He's the one who got you into that room, likely.
Yes. The title.
And he's not getting the glory. You're using the name and you're using your name. And
yeah.
I think of that song, I don't need my name in lights. I'm not a singer, but I'm famous in my Father's eyes.
Oh, there you go. Yes,
right?
I know what you're talking about. Yes.
It's such a good song. And I had to sing that song out loud for years before I actually believed it, because I was on the opposite. I was like, I'm a CEO of 2 positions. One's global, one's local. I have an online boutique, and I do this and I do this and I am this. I am a wife and a mom. But guess what? I am a daughter of the King.
Isn't that amazing?
A son of the King. That's it. That's the only title I need.
It's so cool when you think about that, because why did he say that? When you really think about it, like, why is that in the Bible? Why is that so important? It is the most important thing. Like, I am the I am.
It'd break every political oppression. It'd break every massive conversation that's keeping people separated.
Yep. The
in
beginning
color,
and the end.
In politics, in everything.
And that's right now what I think our country is so lost. Everybody's looking for the identity in something, whatever that is. They're looking for the identity in something.
Yeah, I'm going to be in this people group. I'm going to be in this position. You're so right. You're so right.
And that's the enemy at work. The enemy's at work. He's trying to distract people. Yeah. Oh yeah. He knows.
And that's the thing. I said this earlier to some gals that I was coaching, is that he's conniving, the enemy, and he also knows what he's doing. Sure. But he's not creative. He's not doing anything different. He's not doing anything new because he doesn't know how. And he's been doing this for generations generations and generations.
Since the beginning with the apple. It was like,
absolutely.
Did he's like questioning, he's putting doubt. Did God really tell you you'll die if you eat this? He was planting that doubt.
Mm-hmm. And that doubt was the other word that came to mind outside of purpose, is that they doubt that they're worthy.
Yes.
They doubt that they are not earned to have a position, when we 100%. Know that they're already qualified.
Yeah, they get all the rejection, because especially the way the system is set up now, where you apply online, and as soon as you hit the apply button, you get a rejection right away.
And they might not have a college degree, but they've been in business and doing the thing for 25 years, and 100%. Their tenure doesn't get it to them, because they want tenacity over tenure.
Mm-hmm.
But tenacity fires out. Like, it burns out if you're not passionate about what you're doing.
That's true. I was my background was in the auto industry, and boy, I tell you what, I was top producer 6 years in a row, dominating the auto industry. It was amazing, great times, but I got burnt out. All right. It happens to the best of us. You get burnt out. And so it just wasn't my forever home. I learned a lot of great lessons and a lot of great things that I took with me, but that tenacity does burn out if you're not passionate about it. The only reason I was really passionate about doing it at the time was because I found something I was good at for the first time in my life. It was like, I was like, wow, I'm really good at this. So I'm going to lean in. But man, I leaned in, so far that it just burnt me out over time.
How did that transition happen? Because that's an interesting transition, especially when you're the best at it.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I was really good. I was really great. I was winning all the awards and stuff like that. And I saw a future in the auto industry, right? My vision was like, hey, I'm going to move up to sales manager, finance director, GM, I'm going to move up the ladder. And I really saw that. I'm like, one day I'll own a dealership, stuff like that. Thank God for unanswered prayers.
Come on, brother. You're so right.
Right? Mm-hmm. I mean, really, thank God for because I look at some of those folks now too. Mm-hmm. I'll go back to that same dealership and I see them, and they're just like some of the same people that were there when I was there, and they just look burnt. They look burnt out. Like they're caged lions. Like they need to be able to roam free, but they're just in this cage for 13, 14, 15 hours a day.
On every holiday, on every weekend,
every Saturday,
on every big occasion that their family is having. My dad was actually in car sales for quite a while, and he was phenomenal because he's good with people, and you're clearly really good with people. And so it's interesting that he chose to get out for different reasons, but I'm proud of you is what I want to say. And to know that you probably did so. And I'm curious about the story, risking something, risking the money, the money.
Yeah.
So tell me about that.
I don't have a formal, educational background or anything like that. And so I remember, thinking my fear was like, this is the best job I'll ever have as far as like income potential and this, that, and the other. I mean, I was 22 years old making $150K a year. Like that's big money for 22.
Heck yeah.
I bought my first house at 24. I put $45,000 cash down on it. Like I was making moves at a young age, and like, that's not I didn't come from money. My background, like we were poor. Like we didn't have lights or water growing up or food. It was bad. It was rough.
Wow.
And so I'm like, yeah, I'm afraid if I leave this thing, what does that look like? I was always afraid, like this is the best job I'll ever have. And I had a financial advisor, and he was actually the one that recruited me into financial services, what I do now. But he told me something. He said, Trevor, I understand your fear of leaving the auto industry, but here's the deal. Any dealership on any corner will be lucky to have you, and you know that. So what do you got to lose? If you leave, you got all the upside, you got none of the downside, because you can always go back. And I said, dang, you're right. It immediately took the fear away. I was like, man, you are absolutely right. I can go to any dealership on any corner and be successful. What do I got to lose? And that was what I needed to leave and to make that leap of faith. And best decision I ever made.
I have like people in my spirit that are coming to mind as you're saying this exact thing, that I know are in positions where there's fear of discomfort. And this was said this weekend, and it was definitely something I am taking away from the Embrace Your Ambition conference, is this knowing that the people who love you most often want you to be comfortable and safe. I'm sure your parents probably looked at you and they're like, we're so proud of you. We're so excited for you. What are you doing?
100%.
Why are you doing that? Don't do that. That's a horrible idea. Stay comfortable, stay safe. Even though financial advising is also very lucrative and amazing, there's a season of time where that is not the case. And I have people that I'm thinking about who risked it all for years before the reward came. Yeah. And they put a lot to the side and risked and feared what if. But I love that understanding, specifically for people who I know who have already quit their job, that they could go back to that other thing.
You just gotta swallow your pride at that point right? That's the only thing you
Yeah.
got to lose. If you
Yeah.
got to go
Ego.
back, you're like,
I am a failure is what you say when that happens. Right.
if you have
But
to
you're
go back,
not.
if you have
No.
to go back, you flip it, right? You don't have to go back with your tail between your legs. You can go back and you can spin it and you can say, you know what? I left and I realized I absolutely love auto sales. So I'm coming back. I'm back.
Yeah,
I love it. I figured out.
Right. That comeback story. I love that. And it is
Right.
everything we do is about perception and perspective. And if we can change our mind towards it, it doesn't feel as scary. So the fact that that one sentence for you was the one sentence you needed to say yes, you did it and you didn't go
100%.
back.
And my first year was absolutely terrifying and rough. And it was awful, but it was excellent. You know, I think about it and I'm like, you know what? Thank God it was awful. I needed that. I needed that season of my life. I needed to go from being at the top to hit the bottom, you know, a little bit of humility. And, you know, I'm going to tell you at that point, I was, you know, really, really, really close to God, right? You get real close to God when things are falling apart. You know, I mean, it's real.
What was the parallel like when you were rolling in the 24K or the 24-year-old house and dough?
Yeah, I mean, my first year in financial services, you know, it was just a whole different industry. You're learning, you're trying to figure everything out. I relate it to like going to college and starting a business at the same time because I was having to go through and take all my securities licenses. I didn't have all that stuff. So I'm studying and trying to, you know, make a living. And, you know, the first year they want you to go talk to your friends and family.
Oh,
why do they do that?
Worst. That's a horrible idea.
It's the worst. It's the worst idea. I tell new agents now, I'm like, don't do that.
That's amazing. And I agree because I had such a hard time, even when I opened like a local boutique and I was pregnant at the time and it was a maternity and infant boutique. And I was doing so knowing that like all of my friends were either pregnant or about to be pregnant. That's the kind of season of life that we were in. And none of them shopped there. None of them would come through the doors. And I'm like, what's happening right now? And this is a message for somebody that your friends and family are not your target audience. They're there to love you.
Yes. And they could be at some point.
Yeah.
Right. Like now my parents, you know, see me in a different light. Now they see me as the financial services professional. Now they see me as the CEO. Now they see me after I've put in some time. But like when you're first making that jump, I'm the car salesman still in their mind.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm still the car salesman and I'm trying to go over there, talk to them about their 401k and their IRAs and the retirement and stuff. No. Awesome. Right. And like, so you got to think about that. Like I tell people, you know, let them know what you do. Right. Because visibility is really key. You know, if people don't know that's what you do, then you never know. Right. So like let your friends and family know what you got going on. Like, hey, I made a transition. I'm moving into financial services. These are the services that we provide. If you ever need anything, this is where I'm at. Come holler at me. But you know, like no pressure. You know, don't try to get an appointment with them. Let them come to you.
Yes.
So let them come, you know, and they will. Yeah. Some of them will.
So it's interesting that you're saying that, and this is a little bit of a flip of the script, but it's kind of going back to what we talked about at the beginning. Isn't that similar in your faith? Right? Like you have to go alone sometimes and most times because you need to create a connection that's only yours. You need to have that moment with Jesus that's only yours. Nobody else can go for you to do that thing. Amen. And maybe with you, maybe they're alongside you, but still it's your one-on-one experience. It's you studying every hour, every night. It's you opening the word, right? Yep. It's you crashing and burning when you make that first sales call. And it's you crashing and burning when you're going to try and live this aligned life and you slide back to what was.
100%. Yeah, I think that God he'll meet you where you are. He's not going to force it. Right. He's going to let you approach him. You know, he'll always be there. He's always there. He's kind of like that quiet whisper. You know, he's there. But he's not just gonna be like, not like he did in the Bible where he's like miraculous signs and all kinds of things were happening. Not anymore. It's not like that. It's gonna be like, you'll know it when you feel it though. You're gonna feel the spirit hit you, and you're gonna be like, oh, something's different around this room. Something's weird here.
And you know what's interesting that you say that, Trevor, because I've been really leaning into this this truth of miracles and healing. And what does that mean? And do I, even though I know that the Spirit lives within me, can I? No, I cannot. He can. But I want so desperately to be able to serve as a vessel in that realm, miracles, healings, like help people know by laying my hands on them that they have access to the Holy Spirit for the first time, maybe.
That's powerful. I think that does exist.
Yeah.
Right. I do.
Yeah.
I do think that it exists. I think that's, there's certain people that they walk in a room and they are ordained and they've got a presence to them. I mean, you're like, whoa,
yeah.
You know what I mean? There are certain people that are like, that they have that close of a relationship.
Yeah.
And it's the faith, and it is the faith that they have, their belief that they can do it is why they can do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
like I think
100%.
about, right.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, that's exactly what he says. Your faith is what made you whole. Your faith is what healed you. Yes. Not me. Jesus didn't even take ownership. He said your faith. He did it to blind men. He did it to unclean women. He did it to people all through the Bible. I love that you said that.
At service, this was 2 weeks ago, and my pastor was talking about speaking in tongues, which can be kind of a controversial subject. Why it's controversial, I don't know. But certain people, it's like, it's controversial. I'm like, whatever. It's not to me. Yeah. But anyway, so he's talking about speaking in tongues. And he was talking about a study. Now, I don't know where the study came from. He was just talking about the study that they did about the brain. And at first they did it on people who like meditated, right? And people that just did the, and they like meditate, right? And there's a lot of power in just the vocals of meditating and all that. And anyways, and they did the brain scan on it, and they were showing the portions of your brain that were activated when you were doing that. And then they did the same thing on people that were speaking in tongues. And people that were speaking in tongues were activating a part of their brain that never gets used, like ever.
Interesting.
Like, I don't know the science or the study. Again, I'm just repeating what I was told. Yeah. And I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. Because I've always said, man only uses 10% of their brain. That's what they say, right? You only use 10%. Imagine if you could use 11% of your brain. Just one more percent, 11. How much more powerful would you be than every other person on the planet? Like, what is possible for you? Could you, heal and do things, could you, right?
So cool.
Speaking in tongues, all of a sudden you're activating another piece of your brain that never gets used. And I'm like, whoa, when he said that, I was like, wow. Cause I've always said, what if you could use 11% of your brain? I've always said that. And then he was talking about that.
And it kind of like puts it together for you.
I was like, whoa, wait a minute.
Yeah. That's
but in
really
order to
powerful.
do that, in order to speak in tongues, you got to get, really, really in tune and
connected. Yeah. And that was one of the things that it brought up as you were talking about that, is that like you mentioned that like God's really in the whisper these days. And I believe he's just as loud, but how quiet are you? And are you willing to listen? Because back then we didn't have these. Look how horribly dirty my phone case is. It's not dirty. I think it's just wearing, but regardless, we didn't have these.
That's
we didn't have
true.
this. We didn't have the amazing amount of vehicles that I'm looking out of my office building, driving by. We didn't have light pollution. We didn't have trash like we do now. There's so much that has been infiltrated into society, including all of the broken generational bondage that we were talking about earlier. And so there's a lot of noise. So I think it's less about it not being the same and more about he's constant and he never changes, and we changed. We're the prodigal.
Hold on. On my show, we do mic drops. That was a mic drop.
Oh, come on.
Yeah. We do mic drop.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
How you going to do a mic drop on your own show? What's up with that? How you going to do a mic drop on your own show? That's what's up.
Holy Spirit. That's hilarious. Yeah. Oh my gosh. But that's, as you were talking, I'm like, hold up, because if I want eagerly that access, I got to get really quiet to even be able to receive my own answer to a request.
Gosh,
and it's so hard to be quiet. That's why meditation and manifestation are biblical terms, and they're taught and they're told. And that's what prayer is. That's why Jesus himself, even in the time where there wasn't all this noise, had to go to the garden. Quiet. He had to go somewhere else.
I got to get away from all of y'all.
And people think I'm crazy because I'll go on like hiatus vacations, and I'm going on a writing retreat to like hotels for 1 to 2 nights in order to write. And they're like, will you just check out of your life? Like, what's your husband doing? I'm like, he's enjoying his kids solo. Like, he's not babysitting, he's enjoying his children. And I am doing what God's called me to do, and I'm writing. And I cannot write. I cannot listen to what God would have me share with people fully in his way, in his word, without allowing myself to get quiet. And so how often do you get quiet now? Curious for yourself.
That's so good that you're saying that. Not often enough. I used to prayer journal, and that was my coffee with Jesus, right? So I would wake up first thing in the morning, grab my coffee, and prayer journal. And I just don't do that enough. I was talking to you about, my morning routine has been shattered in a positive way with the group that I met you from, which was Breakfast with Champions. But
no, positive and negative, and you can say both, and that's okay.
No, it's an amazing, I get lifted in that room because I get to meet people like you and inspire people that are just inspiring me to become better and this, that, and the other. But it's it did kind of mess up the morning routine, right? For me anyways, because I'm in there all the time, speaking and stuff. But it's so I need to get back to that routine part of it, which is just quiet in the morning, first thing, because that's where I'm sharpest, actually, is first thing in the morning. And I like a good 45 minutes to an hour with my coffee and my journal and
love that.
So anyway,
I'm going to be praying over you afterwards, just so you know that God comes in with a roar, not a whisper, because I think you need that. I think you need to know his power in that regard. And I don't know why I'm saying that right now, but somebody needs to hear it in addition to you. So,
well, I appreciate that.
Yeah. I'm curious. I have a follow-up question to everything we've been talking about, both from the financial perspective of what you experienced when you were doing car dealing to being a financial advisor. Because I think that industry in and of itself, there seems to be a perspective of sliminess.
Both of them.
Yeah, 100%. You're right. You're so right. So tell me, as a Christian man who stewards his finances well and stewards people well, because we're all in some regards a shepherd. Yeah. What does that look like?
Yeah, no, I love that you brought that up. Okay. So my perception of financial services was not that, okay, because I didn't come from money. I had nothing. I remember I started making money and I'm like, okay, I got responsibility here. I got to do something with this because I don't just want to blow this money. I've got an opportunity here. I need to seize it. So I went out and sought out guidance, and I was like, that's the financial advisor. And I was seeking him out, and I was like, that guy knows all the answers. He's the financial guy. I got to talk to him.
Yeah.
So my perception's different, but you're right. I got into it and I'm thinking that's what everyone else's perception was going to be.
I'm just here to help you. I just want to help steward your money.
I thought everyone else's perception was that a financial services guy is way up here. I got in real fast and I was like, why are they still treating me like a used sales car guy? What? What?
Hey, you were groomed for it. You're prepared for it. You didn't know it, but you were.
Exactly. I'm like, dang, they're still treating me bad.
And I'm wearing a nicer suit. And
I'm looking good. I'm like, yeah. No. And then, what's funny about that is like, I built my business completely different from the way most people, I'm totally different from most financial services firms, completely different. We serve first and we let people that want the help come get it. And there's no pressure. There's literally, zero pressure of anything. It's like, hey, this is what we do. We serve people in this way too. If you want help, let us know. We're here. And people come get it. And it's so funny when you just give first, the rest happens. And I don't have any worries about the money or any of that. Like, where's the business going to come from? How are we going to survive? How are we going to pay the bill? No, we don't worry about any of that. I let God do that. I let God take care of that part. I just serve people.
That's
and
amazing.
So, like with the show and all the things that we do, we do training and all kinds of different things. It's all free to the community. And that's how we serve the job seekers. And we're coming alongside them at a point where they're really kind of hurting. We serve them, we rebuild them, we get them back to their glory, put them back together. And they remember that. And a lot of them come back.
That's amazing.
Some of them work with us right there in the moment, in the midst of chaos. They'll want that help. Some of them will wait till they get landed and get back, things calm down a little bit. But they remember somebody was there to help them and serve them and never asked for a thing.
That's amazing. And I don't think I've ever heard of that in that industry at all. Maybe I just haven't sought it out, or it doesn't precede them. But that's really a radical way of approaching it, and also biblical, which is really amazing. Because as you said, serving first and giving first, like that's tithing, right?
Yeah, it's exactly what it is. And the more, it's so funny, the more we, the more we elevate and get elevated, I just take a lot of that profit and pour it back into the other side. I'm like, how can I just build this side? I need to build more. I just pour into these folks. Like, it's crazy some of the stuff we do. We bought a bunch of, just to give you an example, we bought a bunch of camera equipment, and this was, pre-COVID, right? Giving out headshots in the community.
Cool.
And at the church, which was awesome. And there's a lot of them need updated headshots.
Yeah.
And now we're actually doing like free video editing and marketing for them.
Cool.
So they make video and we market it and promote it and get them visibility and all kinds of different stuff that we do for them. But it's awesome. It's so cool.
So cool. It really is. And I love that, everything nowadays, you're seeing this more often, that there's like a give back program with a company, or there's a service-based piece to what they do, or there's a mission-driven, purpose-driven, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
I don't mean it like blah, like it's bad. I mean, it's amazing. But sometimes I think it's an afterthought.
Right.
Rather than the thought.
That is the thought. This is the thought. Like, we are in the middle right now of completely doing like our site and everything. And it's solely dedicated. We're not just a financial services firm. Like we could serve anyone. Okay. We could literally, in financial services, you could do, doctors, lawyers, high net worth, the affluent, right? And that's what most people do. Yeah. They want the millionaires and billionaires and all that. They want to work with some people with more, what they say, more money, more problems. Yeah. Oh, totally. I'm like, no, that's not us. That's not who we are. Like, I'm serving the everyday, middle America, I'm serving people. And like, I guess we're kind of a niche firm in that way that our primary market, I would say 95% of our client base is job seekers. So it's really cool. It's really unique. And I want to bring up, because I'm connected to tons of pastors. I'm so grateful for that community. That's literally just like, I don't know, emerged on the rise even. And I want you to be able to speak life into this conference concept that you have, because I know that there are people who are going to eagerly
and first, out of service, help bring it to life. So tell us about this idea that you have. It's one of the reasons I reached out to you originally when I heard about it. Not only because you're an amazing game show host, but also because you have a heart. You just have such a heart for it, and it comes out in the way you share about it.
Well, thank you. So if you can imagine the Tony Robbins style conference, 10X, whatever you want, these big conferences that are built for entrepreneurs, they motivate. They're motivational conferences, right? They also educate these people, right? They give them practical tools and tips and things that they can take and apply into their business. But really the big part about it, shoot, a lot of these places, they're like concerts, and they coming through, and it's like a high energy, those types of meetings. And I'm like, well, they don't exist for job seekers, and they need that. They need that motivation, right?
So true.
I can imagine, like, I've got a vision of, especially with the church, because they need that worship music too, right? We were talking about their 100%. Identity.
That is
the identity and purpose and all that stuff. Like, they need to connect. They need to reconnect to that.
Yeah.
And to come in, and you know what? Maybe some of them break down. It'll probably be good for them. There's probably going to be some of that. I hope there is.
Yeah. Well, just like we talked about, that identity is skewed, and it's actually a skewed identity based on American dream status, right? Based on the title that we're supposed to have, based on the timeline that we're supposed to have. And so here they are at whatever age, and likely it sounds like you're working with, middle age, upper age people, and this knowing that, like, they didn't get it right. And so they do have that component of, I'm not worthy. I'm not deemed connected even, because I don't have what the one thing I was taught to do since I was little, and that's have a job. But you still have purpose even without a job.
Yeah.
And the job is just a tactic. It's just a mechanism. And with or without your financial firm, you still have a purpose, and your purpose is to serve. And so ultimately to meet people that will be introduced to Jesus based on the way you live life. And so the fact that you would do worship is the only way that they can get a job and exist in it joyfully. And that's like a huge passion of mine, for people to exist joyfully in their life every single day, not because they have to go to work because they need the money, but because they get to go to work, and money is just a secondary.
That's such a key word. And I love that you said that. For me, my biggest thing is like watching somebody that, when you come across somebody who, like, there's just no light in their eyes. You know what I mean? And you just see it, and they're just hopeless. They're just full of hopelessness. And to lift those people up, and to all of a sudden see the light come back in their eyes, and they start to, they have those light bulb moments of hope, right? A light bulb moment is just hope. You get that light bulb moment, ding.
It's so good.
That's just hope, And so they get that, and they're like, oh, and you see their facial, you see just the light come back in their eyes, and they got hope, and they're just excited all of a sudden. I love it. My number one compliment that I ever get when somebody tells me, they're like, I'm excited again. Like, I'm excited about the job search. I flipped their mindset. You know what I mean? And that's, to me, there's nothing better. Like, they're all going to land a job. So I get people tell me all the time, when they land, and I celebrate them, and I'm like, oh, that's awesome. That's great. But they're all going to land. So I get that all the time.
Yeah.
For me, the biggest thing is when they tell me, like, when somebody's broken and they come to me and they're like, I'm excited again. I'm like, yes.
What is so interesting in that, you did a couple of things that you have to take note of. One, it's like you were maybe not at this conference that I was just at this past weekend, but the title is called Embrace Your Ambition. And the next one's in Dallas, which is near you, right? You're in Texas.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. So really excited about that. You got to be there. You're
for sure.
To the first message, which was hope. Then you're speaking to the clap, which was my message on the last day. And there's this place in between. And this place in between is that shift in posture that I was telling you about, is the knowing that it's not about the ego. It's about the knowing of the one who gave you your name, who gave you your ability, and to clarifies which direction you're supposed to go in. But the thing that really means a lot in the midst of that hope and that clap is connecting with a community. And when you're in this place of isolation, which is, I'm sure, what they feel almost above all other things, maybe even shame and guilt, but they feel completely alone. And could you imagine bringing together hundreds, if not thousands, of job seekers? And they're going to see other people and they're going to be like, they're just like me.
Oh, yeah.
And that's ultimately what keeps people in the lockup, in the shackles, is because they think they're the only one doing this thing by themselves.
And, I'll tell you, pre-COVID, these groups, these churches that are out here, in Texas, this stuff's existed for a long time. The job networking groups here in the churches are phenomenal, actually. The difference that they don't have, it's going to sound conceited in a way, was me.
Come on.
They didn't have
God within you. You're right. No, I agree.
I'm going to tell you,
agree.
They didn't. The energy was so low. I would go into these churches.
I love that.
It was like, wow, what is happening here? And there was no one there like, you can do it. You got this. Like, come on, let's go. Like lifting these people up. There's nobody doing that. And so I was like, all right, I gotta, that's my calling. That's my job. Right. That's what I have to do, because everywhere I would walk into, every single one of these churches, it was depressing. And I'm like, it's actually, you're bringing people together. They've got the community. They feel like they're not alone, but they leave depressed.
Oh,
right.
Yeah.
They're like looking around, and every week they come and they see the same guy who's been here, and they look over and they talk and they're like, hey,
I'm never going to get a job. Oh,
how long have you been here? And the guy's like, 9 months.
Oh my gosh.
That's depressing.
Yeah.
If you're going, oh no, I'm going to be here for 9 months.
You know what's so interesting, Trevor, as you were saying that, and you were like hyping up, and your energy, I mean, you've had this energy before I pressed live. So you guys, he's the same person off camera as he is on camera. And his live show is amazing, by the way. It's like stage and people, not stage, but it's got a stage, and it's got people coming in person, and they're sitting on couches, and it's like a talk show. You've got to tune in. It's amazing. I was talking about how I'm going to pray that God comes in like a roar. You're coming in like a roar to every single one of their lives. Well, and so it's already in you. His voice, his loudness is already in you. And it's pretty wild that I even had that kind of like visual just now. I was like, holy cow. The thing I want for you, you already have. You're just not witnessing it like you think he's going to come in with like, Trevor. Hold on. I want to be Marcus Black. Trevor. That butter voice, right?
Oh, yes.
It's this knowing that he's already within you, that loud. And you are letting him precede you into those places because you're that passionate and you're that called into it. And I'm speaking it right now that Virginia Beach or Hampton Roads, Virginia will have this conference run by Trevor Houston in the coming years, no doubt, because it is such a need. And to amplify every person is our calling, but specifically to know that this is your passion. One, because you probably witnessed your parents, maybe?
No.
Tell me that.
Well, I mean, my mom was disabled, so she didn't work. My dad's a business owner, entrepreneur, owns his own business. I'll tell you, for me, like the only time that I've ever been out of work was just for 1 month. Okay, that was the longest stint that I went without work. But work is what saved my life. Okay, I was running crazy as a teenager, got in a lot of trouble, breaking rules, doing stupid stuff. And work is what saved my life. I ended up moving to my father's house. My father taught me how to save. He taught me how to work hard and to build and to be an entrepreneur and all that. And for me, work is what saved my life, because if I didn't have a positive place to put my energy, I was putting it in a negative place, right? I was putting my energy in a negative place. So I remember that 1 month that I was out of work. And this was probably when I was like, I don't know, 22 20, 21, something like that, 21, 22. And right before I got in the auto industry, I was in Harley Davidson. I was selling Harleys. And I got fired from Harley Davidson. They made up a bunch of lies about me. They made people write false statements so that I wouldn't get unemployment benefits.
What?
Yep. This was right before the holidays.
Wow.
And I was like crushed because my identity was in Harley Davidson. I'm like a 21, 22-year-old kid, and I like loved Harley. I like,
oh my gosh. Yeah.
How stupid that was.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I was crushed, and I started drinking, and and then I got the job selling cars, and again, I went to work, and I saw that, whoa, hold on, I'm good at this. I can do this, and like, so I don't know. I think that's where it comes. I was in a dark spot even in just that 1 month of being in between. In my early 20s,
Isn't it interesting that like people's time frames don't matter to God? Like he'll use you real quick, or he'll potentially just sit with you for a really long time. And my story was a lot longer, my wayward ways, if you will. And so you're blessed, but so am I. And our purpose in that season is exactly why we're called and qualified, even in spite of what the world might say about that season of your life.
Right.
And I think that's the part that can sometimes keep people shackled, even in the season of life that you're serving them in, is because they do that. They feel depressed. They've lost their identity. And so they turn to coping mechanisms that allow them to feel something, whether it's sex, whether it's drugs, whether it's alcohol, whether it's TV, whether it's food.
Yep.
Right. And so I'm sure you've seen a lot in the time frame where people lose the job to the time frame they get the job. And so your pact, your punch, your roar is intended to get a hold of them faster.
Yes, I see. Oh my gosh, there are certain people I have in like my mind right now, and you see a transformation, complete transformation. I mean, like it's awesome to watch that happen and to see where they're at now, and to see when they're just excelling and shining, and it's really, really cool. There are a couple of people that I have in mind right now. They're like the butterfly coming out of the cocoon, right? You see the cocoon, and then all of a sudden at the end of it, they're beautiful,
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Trevor, if you're speaking into whether they're in a slimy market, they don't have a job right now, or they're lacking purpose or identity or whatever it is, what would you speak into them to get them fit in their faith, to get them in the zone to do the thing they're called to do?
Yeah, I would say, one of the things that you were just talking about that I need to get back in the routine of is getting to that quiet place. I mean, some of the best revelations I've ever had have been in those quiet spaces, those quiet times where you're just asking the right questions. I told you about the prayer journal, and I need to get back to that. That's something that I'm glad we're having this conversation, because it's something that I do need to get back to. It's amazing when you write it down and you write out your prayers. It's like love letters to God, right? It's like your love letters to God, your thankfulness, your gratefulness. And then at the same time, you're asking the questions, right? You're giving him your needs.
That's good.
And all of a sudden you start to write down your own answers, and you're like, and you're writing them down. And then what's cool about that is like, you'll go back and look 6 months later, and you'll go, oh, wow, he answered this one, this one, this one, this one, right? And that starts to build your confidence, right? When we were talking about earlier in this episode, we were talking about the people that speak with the Spirit, and they're able to heal people and things like that. It's their confidence, it's their faith, and it's rooted in activities like that. When they've seen God work over and over and over, and they've got that evidence, right? If you write it down and you go back and you look in your journal, you're like, wow, he answered these prayers that starts to boost your confidence so that when you start to proclaim things, you're bold about it.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
you're
saying?
so good. Yeah, it's so amazing. I'm like thinking of so many things I want to say. And it's like the knowing again that your faith preceded you, even in that boldness, even in that confidence. But the fact that it becomes your evidence, I was thinking about like people like Scientology, who they go on this exploration to prove that God doesn't exist, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or that there's a different God or whatever it be. And they come into their faith because there's so much evidence that he exists.
Right.
And there's so much evidence in your individual life that he exists. And if we dissected every listener, every viewer, our lives, we will find evidence even in the seasons when we were wayward.
Yeah, and I it's about reminding yourself too. I think that's another thing too, is to write those things down, because you forget how blessed we are. You forget all the things he's gotten you through up to this point. So for the job seekers listening right now, think about every obstacle, every challenge that you've gone through. Maybe you've gone through a divorce. Maybe you've gone through like for me, I remember when I was 20, got a motorcycle accident, I almost died, right? Wow. Internal bleeding in the head and things like that. And like, you know, I mean, think about just every challenge you've had in your life. He's got you through it, and he'll get you through this one too. But if you don't write those things down, you almost forget. That's the crazy part. It's almost sad, because I remember when I got off that motorcycle when I was 20, I was the most grateful I'd ever been in my life. I was so grateful. Every breath, I could taste every breath. Everything was just so sweet. I cherished every moment. I was just living the life, right? And I remember praying to God, asking him that he'd never take that feeling away from me. I would pray that, don't take this away from me. Don't take this away from me. Well, it's my own fault that it started to fade, because I stopped practicing gratitude. What the difference was gratitude. I was thankful. I was so grateful every day. And so to write those things down and remind yourself, right, to go back and go, wait a minute, you know, because otherwise life gets so busy. There's so many distractions. You forget, what are you thankful for? You start to forget what you're even like. What are you even thankful for? You know.
That is incredibly wise. So wise. And, you know, I think it's more than just the practice of, it's the being within that gratefulness, not just writing it down, but actually being in that breath, being in that gratitude, being in that place, that posture of gratitude. Because it's not just an action. And oftentimes we live checkbox to checkbox. Okay, I did the morning 5. Thanks, Glenn. Right? You did that and you did the check, and now I can go to the next thing. But it's living every moment of gratitude. It's showing up every time someone's deposited into your spirit and sending them that text message. It's not just in the morning that you should be treating your body well or practicing journaling or any of those things. It's every day, it's all day, and it's being present in the midst of that. And I think the way that you serve is so unique, even though you might feel like other people do it, but the way that you said that so boldly, I'm different than all of those. We do it differently. You did that so well. And I know you weren't marketing or doing any tactic. It was just your truth. It was your evidence, because you've seen it happen over and over again. And so I am so prayerful that energy, that ignite, gets across not only our amazing country that we are so blessed to live in, regardless of political strife that we were talking about earlier.
Amen.
But to the nation, because that's the nations, because that's what they need too. Is that ignite?
Amen. Well, and I really appreciate this conversation too, because, you know, I'm not perfect by any stretch. I got a long way to go. And I like, because this is one of those iron sharpens iron conversations. where just us talking is sparking some things. And you know, because when iron clashes, there's some sparks. You know, there's friction, and but it's a positive friction.
So true. I'm so grateful. How can people get in touch with you other than obviously listening to your incredible show?
You know, I will tell you, if you're a job seeker right now, you need to get on the Who You Know mobile app. Ooh,
yeah, mobile app. Look at that. Oh,
yeah,
man.
you need to get that Who You Know mobile app. Just go to Android or Apple, download it. Okay, get in the community. That's what we're building. It's all about community.
Amazing.
Or you can go to whoyouknow.show. That's our website.
Yep.
Connect with me on LinkedIn. Yeah, we'd love to serve you. If you're not seeking employment and you just want to connect with me, you know, we do a lot out there in the community. Maybe you're a coach, maybe you're a recruiter, hiring manager, HR, something like that, and you're led by this conversation and you want to support it. Come on, connect with me. Let's go.
I love that. That's incredible. That's incredible. I'm like, wow, that was different than I anticipated you saying. And I'm like so excited to connect you with different people that I already know that I want to connect you with. And this is what's so good about being with people, y'all, like actually being present with people and not just asking them what they do or what they don't do, but who are you? Who's God called you to be? And God's called you to be someone great with a roar, like a lion, coming in with tenacity. That was actually the adjective that I used to use when you were like, okay, say your name and an adjective. Tenacious Tamra, right here. So good. That used to always be my word. So I hear you, and you're Trevor. So tenacious Trevor. Tenacious Tamra.
Yeah, I like that.
We out. You guys, so good. Get in touch. We'll talk soon. Bye,
Bye.